Imagine you are inside a dream, but not like any dream you've ever had. Around you stretches a forest bathed in a violet moonlight. Each leaf sways softly, releasing a sound so faint it feels like a whisper carried from far away. Beneath your feet, the ground is covered in cool, velvety moss, and somewhere nearby you hear water flowing. You can't tell if it's a stream or a waterfall, but the sound feels strangely familiar. You walk forward, each step trailing a thin veil of mist that curls around your ankles as if reluctant to let you go. The path ahead leads to a stone gate overgrown with green moss. It isn't shut, but it's open just enough for one person to pass through. On the other side of the gate, someone is waiting. Neither of you speaks. Their gaze meets yours, deep, unhurried, and piercing straight into your heart. You know you've never met them in this life, yet your heart remembers. You wake with a jolt. The alarm clock drags you back to reality, yet the residue of the dream lingers, so vivid you can still smell the damp moss and feel the cool air on your skin. You sit on your bed, replaying each detail as one question repeats itself. Why did this dream feel so real? And why did those eyes make me think of another lifetime? If you've ever had a lucid dream so vivid you could feel every breath, every heartbeat, you'll understand. Some dreams are not random creations of the mind. They are doors leading to past life memories, preserved in the deepest layers of the soul. In the journey of spiritual awakening, such dreams are invitations to deeper exploration. You don't always receive them, and you're not always brave enough to step through. But when they arrive, they always carry a message, whether you understand it right away or not. The problem is, most people ignore them. They wake, get swept into emails, messages, and schedules. The dream fades like smoke in the wind, and with it, the chance to connect with the truest part of themselves disappears. Today, we will hold on to that moment. We will explore. Why do some dreams etch themselves so deeply into your mind that you can't forget them? How to recognize the soul's message hidden inside them, and how each fragment can illuminate the path you walk today. Before we begin, keep this question close. If a dream could change the way you see yourself, would you dare to step through that door? Have you ever noticed? Some dreams slip away like sand through your fingers, gone the moment you wake, while others cling to your mind, refusing to leave. Those dreams, vivid in imagery and intense in feeling, are often lucid, moments where you are dreaming and aware that you are dreaming. And in that state, the boundary between reality and the subconscious becomes paper-thin. Dream researchers believe that lucid dreaming is far more than a trick of the brain. When your awareness awakens inside a dream, you gain access to areas of memory that are normally locked away, including possibly past life memories. Imagine your subconscious as a vast library. Each book is a memory, some from this lifetime, others from lifetimes long before. When you dream, you wander through that library in darkness. But when you dream lucidly, you switch on a light. And sometimes, that light falls on an ancient, dust-covered book titled The Life You Once Lived. This is why such dreams leave you unsettled. You wake with a familiarity you can't explain. You remember a street in a city you've never visited. You remember the smell of wood smoke from a house you've never lived in. You remember the eyes of someone you've never met, at least not in this lifetime. Carl Jung once said, "What we do not remember in this life may be memories from another." In the journey of spiritual awakening, this is often the moment people begin asking bigger questions. They realize that dreams are not just movies the brain makes while we sleep. They are mirrors, reflecting both what you consciously know and what your soul is not yet ready to remember. But here's the key. Dreams never hand you the entire truth at once. They arrive as fragments. You might see a place tonight and months later, in another dream, find yourself there again. But in another time, with different people. If you start recording these dreams, a story will begin to emerge. And sometimes that story reveals not only your past, but how you are meant to live in the present. So the question becomes, how do you tell the difference between a random dream and a message from the depths? In the next part, we'll uncover the subtle signs, details most overlook, that are the keys to knowing when a dream is telling you the story of a past life. Keep this question close as we move forward. If a dream is a mirror, what happens when you dare to look straight into it? Here's a truth most people overlook. Dreams never speak to you in ordinary language. They don't send emails, they don't text, and they certainly don't hand you neatly written answers. Dreams communicate through symbols, colors, sounds, and emotions. And if you want to understand their message, you must learn to read that language. Let's start with emotion. In dreams that carry past life memories, emotions are often more intense than usual. You might wake with your heart racing, or with a deep sadness you can't explain. What's fascinating is that these feelings often have no connection to anything in your current life. They feel like aftershocks from a story you've never lived in this lifetime. But your soul remembers. Next, pay attention to timeless details. You might envision yourself wearing ancient clothing, living in a wooden cabin deep in the forest, or strolling along a cobblestone street with 18th century architecture. These details don't appear by accident, especially if you've never studied or encountered them before. Dream researcher Robert Moss once said, "Historical dreams are like journeys through time, but the time of the soul, not the clock." Then there's the illogical familiarity. Déjà vu. Sometimes you dream of a place, and months later, you step into that exact place in waking life. You not only recognize the layout, but also know the hidden corners and tiny details that others overlook. This can be a sign of spiritual awakening, when the boundary between current memories and past life recall begins to blur. Another sign is meeting familiar strangers. They may appear as a friend, a lover, or even an adversary in your dream. You feel an immediate, profound connection or conflict, but can't explain why. Often, these are soul connections carried across multiple lifetimes. And finally, notice repeating symbols. It could be a key, a door, a boat, or even a specific color. These are often subconscious breadcrumbs guiding you back to an unfinished story. They act like a red thread weaving through many dreams, connecting them into one larger tapestry. The key is, don't just remember the images, record the full context and emotions of the dream. If a motif begins to repeat, you've entered a deeper stage of your subconscious journey. Remember this, dreams never repeat without reason. If a detail comes back again and again, it's knocking on your awareness, waiting for you to open the door. In the next part, we'll leave the mirror and step into the darker territory, where dreams don't just carry messages, but also hidden spiritual trials. This is the part many avoid, yet it holds the key to the greatest door in spiritual awakening. Before we move forward, ask yourself, of all the dreams you've ever had, which detail has returned the most? Some dreams don't arrive to comfort you. They come like storms, violent, chaotic, and sometimes leaving you with an emptiness you can't name. These dreams are often the first threshold when you begin a deep spiritual awakening. And if you are brave enough to step through, you'll discover an entirely different world. Imagine this. You are standing on an old wooden bridge. Beneath your feet, a black river runs so deep you cannot see the bottom. On the far side, a dim light waits. Yet around you, the wind howls, the planks groan, and you feel as if you're about to be swept away. This is the image many encounter during crisis-driven lucid dreams. At this stage, dreams often reflect your deepest fears, sometimes unrelated to your current life. You might dream of being chased by strangers in ancient armor, or find yourself in the middle of a battle you know you've fought before, even though you've never studied that period of history. This may be a past life memory surfacing, filtered through the symbols of your subconscious. Psychologist Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." With crisis dreams, the unconscious is knocking hard. It's demanding that you face what you've avoided across lifetimes. One common marker of this stage is the appearance of disconnected scenes. You may dream of being in one place, only to be pulled instantly into another with no logical link. You're on the shore one moment, and in the next blink, you're standing in the desert. This fragmentation isn't a dream glitch. It's the sign of unassembled memory shards, yet to be woven into a complete story. Another sign is feeling isolated even in a crowd. You might be at a party where everyone is laughing and talking, yet you feel like a ghost. No one sees you, no one touches you, and you can't find a single person to speak to. This often points to a deep disconnection from the authentic self, a state many experience just before a true awakening. I recall one story from a viewer of this channel. She often dreamed of making a phone call, but no matter how many times she dialed the correct number, the voice on the other end was distant, fading, until it disappeared. In our analysis, we realized that the mind's metaphor was for how she had lost contact with herself long ago, and the dream was a cry for help. The important thing is this: dark dreams aren't there to scare or punish you. They are like warning signs on the road, reminding you that a part of yourself has been left behind, and if you want to move forward on your spiritual path, you must go back and find it. So how do you keep from drowning when you step into the dark? The key lies in observing without judgment. Upon waking, instead of pushing the dream away, write down every detail, even the unpleasant ones. Ask, what does this scene remind me of? Or who in this dream carries the same energy as someone I know in waking life? The answers won't come immediately, but each note, each memory, each feeling you record will become a map. And that map, though fragmented, will lead you somewhere you've never imagined. In the next segment, we'll step deeper into the heart of this darkness, where past life memories become most vivid and where the secrets your subconscious has hidden begin to emerge. Before moving on, consider a recent dream in which you felt lost or chased. If you can, write it down now, because it may be the first piece that leads you off that old wooden bridge. There are moments in dreams that jolt you awake, your heart pounding as if you'd just run a great distance, yet you have no idea where you were running from. The scenes are too clear, too vivid, and too familiar to be mere products of imagination. That's when past life memories knock at your door. In these cases, the dream is no longer a jumble of disconnected images. It carries continuity, a storyline, characters and emotions as coherent as a film you've watched over and over, yet cannot remember where you saw it. One viewer once shared her experience with me. She dreamed of walking along a cobblestone street in an old European town. The shop signs on both sides were carved with letters she had never learned, yet she could read them as if they were her native tongue. When she awoke, she researched and discovered it was an archaic form of German no longer used since the 18th century. She had never been to Germany, nor had she studied the language. Yet, in the dream, she knew every alley. During spiritual awakening, the subconscious often pushes the deepest fragments of memory to the surface through dreams. When you reach this depth, you'll notice certain patterns. Unfamiliar yet familiar landscapes and architecture, towns, homes, temples, you can describe in detail after waking. Languages you've never studied, but somehow understand, from a few phrases to full conversations, you know the meaning, but can't translate it when awake. Emotions that overpower the dream's context. Sorrow when seeing an unfamiliar face, peace when stepping into a house you've never visited, or loss when a character leaves. Carl Jung described this phenomenon with precision. The dream is the small hidden door to the deepest chambers of the soul. And when that door opens, you don't just find one room. You see a hallway stretching through many lifetimes. A common companion to these dreams is the appearance of synchronicities in waking life. For example, you dream of a strange symbol carved into stone, and days later, you see that same symbol on the cover of a book in a second-hand shop. Or you dream of a song, and the next day, it plays in a cafe you happen to walk into. These are not accidents. They're the universe's way of affirming that the dream held meaning. What overwhelms many is the feeling of remembering, not discovering. You aren't learning something new. You're recalling something you've known for a very long time. And this realization prompts a question. If I remember, where did that memory come from? To work with past life dreams, I recommend 3 steps. 1. Record every detail, especially symbols, locations, and emotions. 2. Avoid rushing to interpret. Past life memories unfold in layers, like peeling an onion. 3. Watch for synchronicities in the 7 to 14 days after the dream. This is when signs appear most clearly. A personal example. I once dreamed of a room full of ancient books, a large wooden desk, and warm light streaming through a round window. On the desk lay a brown leather journal, its pages covered in an unfamiliar script. Upon waking, I sketched a few characters I remembered. 2 weeks later, while researching ancient civilizations, I stumbled upon the same script in a speculative article on the writing system of Atlantis. Whether proven or not, the feeling that I had once sat at that desk was too strong to dismiss. The point isn't absolute scientific proof, it's the effect the memory has on your present. Many people, upon recognizing a fragment of a past life, change their life's direction entirely, from career paths to relationships to the way they see themselves. When you recognize these dreams, remember, they aren't just stories from the past, they're messages for the present, and sometimes roadmaps for the future. In the next part, we'll go deeper into the subtle signs that distinguish an ordinary dream from one tied to spiritual awakening, and how to turn them into guiding tools for your soul's journey. Sometimes, the journey into past life memories doesn't just unfold in dreams, it quietly spills into waking life. You begin noticing synchronicities so precise they send a shiver through you, not once, not twice, but again and again, like an unseen hand is arranging the puzzle pieces so you can't ignore them. Maybe you're driving and happen to pass a street with the same name as the place you dreamt about. You're watching a movie and hear a line of dialogue identical to something said in last week's dream. Or you meet a stranger and in that instant handshake, an unexplainable flood of feeling overwhelms you, a certainty that we've met somewhere before. These moments appear more frequently when you're amid a spiritual awakening, and they often share 3 distinct traits. They strike deep emotional chords, not random, but touching something buried in memory or the subconscious. They cluster in a short time frame, giving the sense you're in a high-signal zone with the universe. They open questions instead of giving answers, prompting you to keep searching, keep connecting. Carl Jung called this the language of the collective unconscious, the way our deepest mind communicates through meaningful coincidences. I vividly recall an experience of my own. One morning, I awoke from a dream of a white stone temple in the middle of a desert. In the dream, I stood before a massive door, running my hands over carved symbols etched deep into the cold surface. Upon waking, I sketched one of the symbols simply so I wouldn't forget. A few days later, I happened to be watching an archaeology documentary, and there it was, the same symbol on a stone slab from an ancient Middle Eastern civilization that had been lost for thousands of years. I had never studied that region, never seen that symbol before. The feeling wasn't, oh, what a coincidence. It was, I've been there. I've touched that wall. This is the point I want to emphasize. In past life memories, the emotional weight is often stronger than the evidence. It's the feeling of having been that pulls you further into exploration. When these signs begin appearing, here are 3 things you should do to deepen the connection. 1. Record everything, even if it feels vague. Don't wait for perfect clarity, a word, an image, a face. It's all worth noting. 2. Ask open questions. Instead of, what does this mean? Try, what should I pay attention to next? 3. Stay in observation, not force. If you try to decode everything instantly, you interrupt the natural flow of understanding. Many people in this stage feel disoriented. Outwardly, life, work, relationships, routines look the same, but inwardly, a door has opened that will never close again. You start seeing the world differently. A casual conversation holds a hidden message. A spontaneous trip leads you to a place that evokes a deep sense of familiarity. A random melody awakens a nameless longing. This is the second peak of the entering the dark phase, the realization that the line between dream and reality is no longer clear. There's a quote by Paulo Coelho that captures it perfectly. When you want something, All the universe conspires in helping you to achieve it. In our case, that something is the truth about the fragments of your soul lost across time and space. In this stage, prepare yourself. There will be days of unparalleled clarity and days of fog and confusion. Both are necessary. The most important thing is not to quit simply because you don't understand yet. Past life memories are like a vast mosaic. You will receive each piece in its right time, in its right way. In the next part, we'll step into the awakening journey, where you don't just record these memories, but begin using them to transform your present and expand your future. There's a moment on this journey that I call the pivot point. It's not when you suddenly have all the answers. It's when you realize you've found a clear enough thread to start following. If, in the previous stage, you were wandering through a dense forest surrounded only by darkness and strange sounds now, you begin to notice light filtering through the leaves. Not much, but enough to find your bearings. At this stage, you're no longer passively waiting for dreams to arrive at random. Instead, you start creating the conditions for them to appear and for their messages to become clearer. Some people do this through lucid dreaming, where you are aware you're dreaming and can guide parts of the story. Others use deep meditation before sleep, setting intentions to connect with a specific memory or experience. When you enter this state, something remarkable happens. The fragments from your dreams and waking life start clicking together faster. A symbol from last night's dream might be confirmed the very next day, in a photo you stumble across, in a place you unexpectedly visit, or in a conversation you weren't planning to have. Think of each dream, each sign, each déjà vu as a shard of ancient pottery. If you leave them scattered in your mind, they're easy to forget, distort, or lose entirely. But if you record them carefully, you'll start to see the outline of the entire vessel emerging. One method I often recommend is dream mapping, drawing connections between your dreams and real-world signs. For example, May 12th, dream of a circular stone gate. May 14th, see the same symbol in an archaeology book. May 15, hear the sound of rushing water in meditation, just like in a dream. When you notice repetition, you know that piece matters. And this is when your inner trust begins to grow, not because of what others say, but because of your own lived experiences. What surprises many is that past life memories aren't just for satisfying curiosity. They can be powerful tools for healing and growth. For example, you dream of being an artist who lost all your work in a fire. In your current life, you realize you've always feared starting new projects because you believe it will all be for nothing. By identifying the root, you can release the fear and create from a place of freedom. You recall a deep relationship from a past life that ended in separation. Now, you meet that soul again in a new form, this time with a chance to write a different ending. When you start applying what you uncover to your current life, your spiritual awakening shifts to another level, from awareness to action. An intriguing part of this stage is that you'll begin to accidentally meet people having similar experiences. They may share a story that matches a dream fragment of yours, or casually mention a location you saw the night before. Carl Jung once said, "The people you need will appear at the right time, just as dreams come when you're ready to understand them." This isn't random chance. When your energy shifts, you attract frequencies that match, people walking parallel paths. How do you know you're moving in the right direction? 3 signs. 1. Synchronicities gain purpose. They stop feeling like fun coincidences and start revealing clear messages. 2. Dreams deepen and gain structure. You return to the same place or meet the same person across multiple dreams. 3. Your emotions stabilize. Even though the journey remains mysterious, you no longer feel as lost as you did before. As you step into this stage, remember, this is not a race. You don't need to unlock all your memories in a week or a month. Each fragment arrives in its own time, and often it's the pauses between them that are the most profound. In the next part, we'll explore how past life memories can unlock hidden abilities, such as creativity, heightened intuition, and spiritual gifts you may never have realized you possessed. Have you ever wondered why some skills come to you so quickly that it feels almost impossible, like you've done them 1,000 times before? Or why you feel a deep, unshakable connection to a field you've never formally studied? If you've ever felt this, you may be awakening an ability that has slept within you since a past life. When people think of past life memories, they often envision images, dreams, or stories from their past lives. But in truth, they're more like your soul's source code, programs stored deep within the hard drive of the soul, containing skills, reflexes, and even mental habits you've accumulated over lifetimes. For example, someone who's never studied music but can play the piano fluently within months. A 5-year-old who can speak an ancient language no one in their family knows. A new painter with an instinct for color harmony like a seasoned artist. These aren't random. They're inherited data from other lifetimes, and when you connect to them, you're simply reopening hidden files. Past life gifts often surface in 3 ways. 1. Innate skills, things you excel at from your very first attempt. 2. Powerful passions, an irresistible pull toward a field, even without logical reason. 3. Dream recall, seeing yourself practicing the skill in another setting, perhaps in an 18th century European kitchen, or on a Japanese feudal battlefield. When you notice and nurture these abilities, they develop far faster than starting from scratch. So why do many people never fully activate them? 3 main reasons. Lack of belief, assuming it's just a fluke or beginner's luck. Distraction. Modern life leaves little room for deep reflection. Fear of standing out. Worrying about being judged for being too good too soon. The truth is, denying your gift means leaving one of the most powerful keys of your spiritual awakening unused. Here are practices you can begin today. Dream replay. Before sleep, ask, if I've done this before in another life, show me. Record any images or sensations in the morning. Past life. Meditation. Visualize walking down a long hallway with many doors. Open the one linked to the skill you want to explore. Activation through objects. Touch something related to the field, an instrument, a paintbrush, a map, to spark emotional and memory connections. Some spiritual researchers believe that repeating these practices for just 21 days can bring noticeable shifts. One friend of mine, Sarah, had never sculpted before. On a trip to Italy, she visited a marble workshop and felt as if she'd come home. The owner let her try carving, and in just 3 hours, she created a piece that the master craftsman said looks like 16th century style. Later, through a past life regression, Sarah saw herself as a sculptor in Florence, working alongside one of Michelangelo's pupils. It not only brought her creative joy, but also helped heal a lifelong fear of not being good enough in her modern design career. Here's what's important. A past life gift isn't just for personal use. It often carries a mission, a reason it's returned to you now. It may be to help others, to complete unfinished work, or to spread a message. As Carl Jung said, what is not made conscious will return to you as fate. When you consciously use this gift with purpose, you rewrite fate, not only for yourself, but for everyone your gift touches. You'll know you're unlocking it when you enter a creative flow so deep you lose track of time. Others remark on your natural talent, even though you've just begun. Your dreams become vivid, continuing the skill work you started while awake. When you understand and activate these latent abilities, you realize that past life memories aren't distant, mystical relics. They're living parts of you, waiting to breathe again. In the next part, we'll step into expanded knowledge, where memories, signs, and abilities link to the deeper principles of the universe, allowing you not only to experience your awakening, but to understand it. Have you noticed? Every time a past life memory rises to the surface, your current life suddenly begins to fill with coincidences that are almost too precise to be chance. You might dream of a city you've never been to, Then, a few days later, a photo of that exact city unexpectedly shows up on your newsfeed. Or you think about an old friend you haven't spoken to in years, and they message you that very same week. These moments aren't random. They are synchronicities, meaningful coincidences, what Carl Jung once called the secret language of the universe. Picture yourself as a single node in an immense web of light. Every strand is a connection to a memory, a person, or an experience in another time. When a past life memory awakens, it's like a current of electricity runs through that web, lighting up related nodes. That's when synchronicities appear, as if the universe is whispering, "You're on the right path. Keep going." For example, you begin researching past life regression, and suddenly you meet a neighbor who, as it turns out, used to be a regression therapist. You're curious about lucid dreaming, and a how-to video just happens to appear in your YouTube recommendations. These aren't just pieces of information, they are doorways. You can think of the universe as a radio station, constantly broadcasting signals. But to hear them, you have to tune in to the right frequency. When you connect deeply with past life memories, you start picking up transmissions that match your current stage of spiritual awakening. And, like hearing the perfect song at the perfect moment, these signals stir your heart in an almost inexplicable way. Directional signals, they guide your next step. For example, you're torn about whether to take on a project, and in the span of a week you see the phrase, "Do the thing that makes you lose track of time" 3 different times. Confirmation signals, they affirm that you're aligned. You're practicing regression meditation, and every time you open your eyes, the clock reads exactly 11:11. Activation signals, they awaken a new memory or ability. You hear an unfamiliar melody, and suddenly a vivid scene from a long-forgotten lifetime floods your mind. Remember, past life memories do not exist in isolation. They're part of a continuous timeline, where your past, present, and future lives all run in parallel. When you touch a single point in that timeline, you send ripples across multiple layers of reality. Those ripples are the synchronicities you notice in your current life. They're like cosmic postcards, messages from the universe reminding you that things are being woven together in ways far more intelligent than you can imagine. I once spoke with a man named Daniel. He often dreamt of himself writing letters with a calligraphy brush in a wooden room during Japan's Edo period. One day, wandering through a book fair, he randomly picked up a historical novel set in the Edo era. Inside the cover, he saw a name, Takahiro, the very name he'd heard someone call him in his dreams. That moment inspired him to delve into Japanese history, which in turn sparked a deep passion for calligraphy. Within a year, Daniel had become a skilled calligrapher, selling his art to collectors around the world, almost as if he had returned to an old profession. You don't have to hunt synchronicities. You simply need to sharpen your sensitivity to the universe's signals. Sign journal. Each time you encounter a synchronicity, jot down the time, circumstances, and what you felt. Observation. Meditation. Spend 5 minutes a day in silence, watching the thoughts that drift through. Ask and open. Pose a question to the universe, then watch for the answer to arrive, through words, events, people, or even song lyrics. Most importantly, don't dismiss them as just coincidences. The universe doesn't arrange signals for its amusement. As Albert Einstein once said, coincidence is God's way of remaining anonymous. For anyone on the path of spiritual awakening, synchronicities are the hidden map leading you to the missing pieces of your soul. In the next part, we'll explore how to weave these fragments of memory and synchronicities into a complete picture, so you don't just experience them, but also understand why they are happening to you now. Because once you understand the reason, you'll know exactly where you're being led. And that's when the journey of awakening becomes clearer than ever. Do you remember? Since the beginning of this journey, we've talked about past life memories as scattered puzzle pieces, sometimes a blurry image, a sound, or a strange feeling you can't quite name. The problem is, many people spend their whole lives collecting pieces but never put them together. They notice synchronicities, they recall dreams, but they don't know how these fit to form the big picture of their soul. In this segment, we'll delve deeper into how to connect all those signals, from lucid dreaming and dream meanings to signs of reincarnation, into a navigational map. In every collection of memories, there's always one piece that's the clearest, the one that gives you chills every time you recall it. It might be standing on an ancient cobblestone street, the face of someone both familiar and unknown, a name or a word not in the language you speak. This bright spot is the center of your map. Circle it, like marking "You are here" on a treasure map. Each memory holds its own energy field. When you focus on one piece, let the feeling guide you to the next. For example, you dream of being on a beach. When you recall it, you smell wood, and that scent leads you to another memory of walking through a pine forest. Feeling is the glue, not logic. This is how spiritual awakening expands your intuition. Whenever a synchronicity occurs, determine which route on the map it belongs to. Example: you keep seeing images of a crane. Connect it to the memory of wearing a robe embroidered with cranes. You meet 3 strangers who all mention Kyoto, which links it to the dream where you were in ancient Japan. This turns synchronicities into signposts. Here's a technique I learned from a well-known regression researcher. Start with a current memory. Step back 1 layer. See where that layer leads. A real example: current memory. You see a red wooden door. Layer 1. You recall standing before a temple. Layer 2. You remember offering lotus flowers at an altar. Layer 3. A heavy ache in your heart, and the realization that you once lost someone dear in that very temple. This way, the memory is no longer a scattered image, but a chain of events. Some think past life regression and lucid dreaming are purely subjective, but research on subconscious memory shows the brain stores information as a network of associations. When one node is activated, others light up. This means that when you recall a past life memory, your brain is opening a cluster of data that includes feelings, sounds, and visuals. Carl Jung referred to this as the collective unconscious, where personal memory and humanity's shared memory intersect. Maya often dreamed of a lighthouse. At first, she thought it was just a random dream, but then she started seeing lighthouses in paintings, in books, even on a billboard during her commute. She decided to record each time she saw one. Within 3 months, she noticed that lighthouse synchronicities always came with a sense of peace, the exact opposite of the anxiety she felt at work. One day, while watching a documentary about the English coast, Maya burst into tears. The scene matched her dream perfectly. That's when she realized she had once been the daughter of a lighthouse keeper, and that memory was teaching her the value of stillness in the storm. Here's a practice you can try. Day 1, 2. Write down every dream and synchronicity you remember. Day 3 to 4. Circle the details that repeat the most. Day 5. Connect the details through a shared feeling or symbol. Day 6. Meditate for 20 minutes, imagining yourself walking along this map, seeing where it leads. Day 7. Write a short message from the soul based on what you discovered. Don't get lost in your pain. Know that one day, your pain will become your cure. Every memory, whether painful or beautiful, is part of the map leading you home. In the final part, we'll return to the mysterious image that opened this video, and you'll understand why your dreams, synchronicities, and past life memories are surfacing at this exact moment. Because maybe this isn't just a journey of discovery, but an invitation for you to awaken completely. Do you remember the opening image? A room full of mirrors, yet not one reflected your figure. For almost 45 minutes, we've traveled through dream meaning, past life memories, reincarnation signs, and those nights of lucid dreaming that opened doors into deeper layers of memory, each synchronicity whispering to you that everything is connected. So, why does that room still refuse to show your reflection? On the spiritual awakening path, some questions are not meant to be answered immediately, but rather to keep us moving forward. Maybe you don't see yourself in the mirror, because that part of you doesn't belong to this lifetime. Maybe you don't see yourself, because you're not yet standing in the right light. We often rush to know it all, But sometimes, mystery itself is what keeps the soul awake. Many studies on past life regression reveal that the brain doesn't randomly open the vault of memory. It chooses the moment you are emotionally safe enough to face that information. That's why you can't force yourself to recall a past life detail on command. Like a lotus flower, memory opens one petal at a time, slowly yet surely. And you are at the exact stage when the signs start to appear more frequently. Thomas was a scientist who didn't believe in reincarnation, but after a high fever, he began having the same dream repeatedly, standing in the middle of an ancient city, holding a worn leather journal. At first, he thought it was just the echo of a film he'd watched. But then he met 3 different people in 3 different countries, and all of them mentioned the same strange place, the name of the city from his dream. When he searched, he discovered it was a city that had vanished from maps 300 years ago. The déjà vu hit so strongly, he had to sit down and admit, maybe his memories had lived far longer than his body. Thomas's story shows us we don't choose the moment memory returns. Memory chooses us. If you've come this far, ask yourself, is there a detail in a recent dream that keeps tugging at you? Is there a face you've met only once, yet it feels like you've known them your whole life? Is there an image that keeps resurfacing, no matter how hard you try to forget it? Don't dismiss these clues. They're not random. They're the red threads tying you back to your soul's map. You stand at the crossroads of spiritual awakening and past life memories. Reincarnation signs are no longer vague ideas. They're touching you through lucid dreaming, through dream meaning, and through every synchronicity you encounter. Don't let them slip away like rain. Gather each drop, for they are messages from your own past lives, sent to you while you are living now. Before we close today's journey, I want you to do one thing. Comment with an image, a keyword, or a feeling from your most recent dream. But don't explain it. Let others read it and feel it in their own way. Who knows? We might find threads that connect us all. The final question I want to leave you with is this. What if dreams don't only come from the past, but from the future? Because in the next video, we'll explore the possibility that the memories you're seeing may not only belong to a past life, but could be messages from a lifetime you have yet to live. That's not just past life regression, it's future life memories. Try to accept the changing seasons of your soul. Even in the cold of winter, the roots are deepening. You may not see yourself in the mirror yet, but trust me, that image is slowly coming into focus, clearer with each passing day.